Another beautiful, warm, hot day in India to, and we are going back most of our parts of the country. That one webinar or 55 minutes of presentation doesn't do justice to the amazing and the extensive history, the extensive food, culture, art forms, dance forms, music forms that each of our state embodies. And so therefore, we take you back to the little state of Goa. But this little state of Goa, interestingly, has the highest per capita income in India. And today we are going to see very different aspects of Goa. The beaches are still there, the palm fronds are still there, everything is still there. But along with it, we need to remind you that Goa has a very deep history going back. The tectonic origins of Goa date back to 10,000 BC. I was reading about that, viewers, today. And we will be hearing all this from today's Sanjeev Sardesai. He's a historian. Arminio Ribeiro brings to us the architectural delights from the state of Goa. And Savani Sheteshal is the archaeologist who's going to date us back, going back. I don't know how many years she's going to take us back. She's going to take us back a lot of millennials. But a few fun facts and few interesting facts about Goa. India's very first printing press was set up in Goa, in the St. Paul's College in 1956. The Say Cathedral Church in Old Goa is the largest in Asia. Two of the official languages of Goa are Konkani and Marathi. Goa also has a forest cover of 33% of the total land mass, and it has in those beautiful forests 275 species of birds and 40 types of animals and reptiles. Interestingly, Goa has blended the Hindu, the Muslim, and the European traditions down the ages beautifully. There are the Uskalimal rock carvings, there's the Rivana Buddhist caves, there are the Archaeological Museum, which is very much a must to do on the itinerary for any tourist visiting Goa. I was also reading about Goa that the Kadambas ruled around the 11th century for about 300 years, and that's supposed to be the golden age of Goa. The people still remember it in that manner. Today, the modern Goa has about 65% of people practicing Hinduism, about 25% practice Christianity, and about 7% practice Islam. Isn't that what we are all about? That's the incredible India. That's the beautiful India that we live in. It has thousands of years of history behind it. And today, whatever we do, our traditions are an amalgamation of all those cultures, and we love our country for that. So let me introduce to you the first presenter for today. Sanjeev is going to start the presentation, and after that, he's going to pass on the baton, the web stage, as I call it, to Arminio and Savani, and they're going to walk us through the history and the archaeological delight of this amazing state. Enjoy the Dekho Apna Desh webinars and keep seeing the country virtually for now, and very soon do the actual travels. Sanjeev, the web stage is all yours.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It would be a pleasure to take all of you all on a beautiful journey to see a beautiful stage of mine called as Goa. Before I start, let me welcome all of you through this small little presentation of mine of a state that has got so much things to offer to you. We are a small state on the west coast of India, having an area of just about 3,702 square kilometers, and well connected by air through Double Airport. You can come from Delhi, from Bombay, and we have a lot of international flights coming in here. And on one side, that is on the west side, we have the Arabian Sea. Now, this particular sea, it has got a story. Now, mythologically, we are told that this land of Goa was created by an arrow shot by Parshuram, the sixth incarnation, asking the sea to go back to create land so that he could do his puja. Once he did that, we have now 100 105 kilometers of this land sharing itself with the mighty Arabian Sea on the west, and the wonderful Western Ghats, the Sahyadri range on the east side. Uh, by the way, Western Ghats or the Sahyadri range is a hotspot for the environmentalists all over the world, as we still find a lot of reptiles, new reptile species, and new trees over here. This small land of Goa was brought on the international map somewhere down in the mid 1960s, when we had the flower children arriving into Goa, whom we call as the hippies. They brought in a culture of music on the beach. And then we had a snowballing effect of people coming down. And today we have approximately about 71 lakh domestic tourists and about 7 lakh foreigners who are coming to Goa annually. We are connected now with almost about 500 plus charters. And when you come to Goa, we have a lot of hotels for you, of your choice. We have around 63-star hotels. We have about 400 plus other hotels in A, B, C, D category. And you can come here and enjoy Goa. But this small land of mine has got an identity which has been perceived over the time because of Bollywood and because of this fruit called as the cashew fruit, brought here by the Portuguese from Brazil. This is where we get our fenny from, and we have a GI index for that. But together, the foreign effect as well as the beautiful high-spirited cashew and the fenny and other alcohols, Goans have got an image that shows them as colorfully dressed people with music in their blood and normally on the golden beaches of Goa under the coconut trees. But ladies and gentlemen, Goa has got a much better thing to offer to you. I'm going to start my presentation with telling you the official characters of my state. Now, our official state tree is the matti tree, or Terminalia tomentosa, or the crocodile bark tree. We have got our state animal as the gaur, or the Indian bison. The official bird of Goa. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have got about 1,380 species of birds in India, out of which almost about 450 are available here in Goa. Goa is an ornithologist's dream paradise. Our state fish is the Mugali cephalus. Now, since I'm talking to you about these state characters, which are all from the wildlife and from our forest cover, I have to tell you that we have got 5 wildlife sanctuaries, ranging from all north to the south. And we have got the Dr. Salim Ali Bird Sanctuary also. When we talk about the heritage of Goa, please note that Goa is one of the most privileged states in India, because we are gifted by Mother Nature with a geological heritage called as Strontiumite gneiss. Now, these rocks are dated back to 3,500 million years ago. These are the rocks that were spewed out, the lava that was spewed out and solidified above the land. And this is available only in Goa, in a place called Palole and Anmod. Rest of these stones, primary stones, are found outside India. From 3,600 million years worth of geological heritage which we can touch. Let's come down a little closer. We offer you a 65 million year old fossilized forest, 8 square kilometer of land, where you find these trees that have solidified into stone. Let's come back a little closer. 10,000 to 8,500 BC. These are the petroglyphs that we find in Padsaimar, we find in Kazur, we find in the north at the Maushi village. And we have got 143 of these carvings on one single rock. Besides that, talking about geology and rocks, we have caves, which are showing signs of Buddhist stays over here. These are at Andepar. This is at Arvalem, where we have the waterfall also. This is the Rivana cave. When you come to see these caves, you can also see waterfalls. This is Dudhsagar waterfalls. This is Arvalem waterfall, and this is Dudhsagar. This particular waterfall comes from Karnataka into Goa, passing under a railway line, one of the most sought after destinations in the hinterlands of Goa. The other official characters of Goa is the musical instrument, the heritage instrument, and the divas. This is a 5-armed oil lamp. And since I'm talking about the Ghumat music, let's look at the festivals of Goa. Goa offers you Carnival, which is the state festival. I don't have to tell you much on this. We have the Shigmo, which is as flashy as the Carnival. Then at local areas, we have got this festival called as Saint Juan, where you actually respect the water and the wells and the son-in-laws. This is where they all take a dip into the wells. We have got this festival called as Bonderam on the island of Diwar. And it is said that this particular banners were used to put to rest the strife of different wards in a village of this Diwar, the Comunidades. Then we are closely related to Mother Earth. And here we have got this festival called as Chikalkalo, where you can have a mud bath and play games in the mud. Here you find children of the age of 1 year right up to elderly gentlemen of the age of 88 to 90 years coming here and playing in the mud. Then we have got some very interesting festivals which happen down in the south as well as in the north. This is the Poingini Gade, where we can see a man with hooks on the back, taken right on top, tied to a spindle. And this being a religious festival, it's really interesting to see that. We don't even spare the ghosts. Because here we have got a festival called as the Bhutanchi Jatra, or the Festival of Ghosts, held inside a crematorium. And ladies and gentlemen, you're most welcome to come there, because there are more than 50,000 to 60,000 people who come to this particular picturesque place. And when you come to Goa, our cuisine, vegetarian and the non-vegetarian, in the ethnic style as well as in the Portuguese style. We love seafood, and I'm sure you too love that seafood over here. Now, Goa has got abodes. We have got a lot of tangible heritage. We have got a lot of houses which have been wrongly identified as Portuguese houses. These are houses which are having Indo-Portuguese architecture. Huge houses, lovely tiles on top, as well as shell windows that we can see that allow light to come in. But when you come to Goa and you want to see these houses, don't miss out on watching whether it has got a gun port. Earlier, the houses were safeguarded by having a hole through the wall where they would put a gun and shoot. Not only that, don't miss out on the walls having bullet marks. This is beautiful heritage. Now, this is outside, but we have got house museums. When you go inside, you will find a tunnel going into a secret room through a cupboard. Don't miss this out. This is what Goa is all about. We have forts, a lot of forts. This is the Aguada Fort, which has got its name after a huge tank of water, agua or aqua. Then, one of the new renovated forts is Reis Magus, where we have got a gallery and a place where you can have performances over here. We have got Cabo de Rama Fort in the south, and we have got the Shapura. In fact, ladies and gentlemen, this Shapura Fort is now identified by the people after seeing Bollywood movies as the Dil Chahta Hai Fort. This is in Shapura. We have palaces too. This is the Rajbhavan or the Cabo, the official residence of the governor, honorable governor of Goa. And we have got another palace also, Palazzo de Dion, deep down in the south of Goa. But we are proud of certain architectural features that we have. This is the causeway that connects Panjim to Ribandar. And why am I mentioning this here is this was built in the year 1632 to connect Old Goa and Ribandar to Panjim. But the most important part of this is that this was a contemporary to the Taj Mahal. Built in 1632, it took 2 years to complete this, and Taj Mahal took 22 years. Built 387 years back for horse carriages and carts, it is carrying a load about 1,000 times more even after this long period. Yes, it was not just the British. We have got the British Cemetery, where the Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, when she was here for the Commonwealth Head of Government's meeting, had visited right next to the Rajbhavan. Now, Goa in itself has got a beautiful abbreviation, GOA, that is God's own abode, thereby telling you we are a land of spirituality. In Old Goa, we have got a Viceroy's Gate, where all the viceroys entered into the city of Old Goa, which today is identified as Goa's World Heritage Site. You can see the Sir Cathedral here, St. Francis of Assisi Church. This is the Bom Jesus Basilica, where the sacred relics of St. Francis Xavier have been kept inside this casket, silver casket. When you are in Panjim, you just cannot miss the beautiful edifice of the Panjim Church. Yes, we had a Jain influence here too, and this Jain temple is seen in Pune. The earliest Hindu temple that we find is the Tambadi Sulla, which is the only temple in its original form that we can find in Goa. Like that, we have the Mangeshi temple, we have the Saptakoteshwar temple built by Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, and we have got the Shantadurga temple down in south in Kunkuri. Adil Shahi Bahmani influence that was here have left us wonderful heritage like the Safa Shahari Masjid in Ponda. We have the Surlatar Mosque, and this small little Idgah that was built in Bicholi was a gift by Sambhaji to one of the Mughal prince. Ladies and gentlemen, we love you, but our more prominent ethos here is to protect, preserve, promote the Goan heritage. We consider Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam Atiti Devo Bhava. The world is a family and guest is God. And when you go around Goa, we find a lot of this. Many of these have gone missing. Please do not pilfer or vandalize, our beautiful heritage we have, because somewhere in forests you will find such type of carved idols that are lying around the place. Sometimes you feel like being a little too personal with them. Please don't do that. Goans have contributed a lot in all the fields. Abi Faria, a Goan who had gone to Portugal and then to France, is considered as the father of suggestive hypnotism. Mario Miranda, Padma Shri Mario Miranda, he is the international caricature artist who has taken Goa to the world through his strokes. We had Mogubai Kurdikar, Padma Shri Mogubai Kurdikar and Padma Vibhushan Kishoritai Amonkar, who have taken classical music to the people of Goa. Now, If you think that Goa has got just a few things for tourists, we have a kaleidoscope of tour. We have heritage walks in Latin quarters. We have got walks in the sea salt making pans. If you are a little adventurous, you can go to the Devil's Canyon down in the hinterland. If you'd like to take things easy, go crocodile sighting in the boats. If you are adventurous, we have got bungee jumping for you. Water sports, we have got river rafting, parasailing. And if you want to touch the skies, we have got hot air ballooning for you. Ladies and gentlemen, you are the true ambassadors of Goa State. We want you to come, and I'm sure that Goa will offer you many, many things. And if you have noticed one thing, in this entire presentation of mine, I have not told you anything about the beaches of Goa, because that is something that you already know about. On this note, I would like to say bye to you so that my colleagues can give you more information. Thank you very much, Shukriya, thank you, muito obrigado, and Deus Kuru. Thank you so much. I hope you all have enjoyed.
Your screen.
Well, thank you, Sandeep. I'm Arminio Ribeiro. Photographs of some of our built heritage, but I'm going to put it in a perspective, which is the way we understand it here in Goa. So let me start with this Karmali Lake. This is an engineering masterpiece of our ancient period, where we had learned to manage our water resources and our agriculture. The reason why this kind of management was done through communities called Gaonkari systems, and these systems kept and preserved a sustainable Goan environment through the ages. It has set up a framework for development of Goa into a number of settlements which are well distributed with agricultural, forest lands, and waters and lakes. The next slide that I'm showing you is the kind of engineering that was done, which are the sluice gates, which allowed the storing of fresh water and prevention of ingress of salts. Sorry. Hello, can you hear me? Yes? Yeah. Should I start from the beginning? Yeah. So I just took you all through a presentation through the Komundat systems, which set the foundation of our villages and our state of Goa. It was an agrarian system that allowed farming of lands collectively. And in this came a lot of ancient engineering, which allowed storage of waters, irrigation of lands, and also the salt farming in Khazan, in low-lying lands. Goa's history is it's a very long period, and it is the pre-colonial period, I would say, would be up till the 15th century, which had rulers like the Kadamba dynasty in the 10th century, the Bijapur sultans in the 14th century. It was followed by the colonial period, which was from 16th to 20th century. The Kadamba rulers had their capitals at first at Chandor, which was followed by the capital at Goa Velya, which is the Gokapatana, and it was later on when the rulers of the Bahmani Sultanate and the Adil Shahi conquered Goa. It was shifted to what we know as Old Goa now. It was called Ella at that period of time. The colonial period marks the period between the 16th and the 20th century. And it is the interesting period which has left its mark on architecture, the town planning, and the village layouts. It has formalized a number of our cities and village-scapes. And this is the part that I think would be interesting for us to share. This is a photograph of Old Goa, which in the mid of 16th century had reached its peak of development with a population of about 200,000 and buildings of scale not seen before in this region. At some point, it had a number of churches, large administrative buildings, and was also seen as the eastern capital of the Portuguese Empire. From here came the spread of the trade and the spread of the Portuguese of the Christian religion to the rest of the world, and was also the center of learning, education, and a number of other things that came with it. These are the kind of structures that I think are impressive, built in the 16th and 17th century. This is the convent of Santa Monica, which is standing today and is well maintained and preserved by the church. The other structures are now managed and maintained by the Archaeological Survey of India. The Archbishop's Palace also of that early period of the Portuguese rule, and the Say Cathedral, which is one of the largest churches in Asia. These are the interiors of St. Francis the Assisi, important building, well decorated. The Basilica of Bon Jesus, which houses the remains of St. Francis Xavier. With the prosperity and the thing came a number of palaces and mansions in Goa. These are the palaces of, say, the Desh Prabhu family, which is an important feudal family in North Goa. A structure that was built later on to allow visitors from different parts of India and also the Portuguese to be hosted, which formed part of the Desh Prabhu house. A palace of the Saundekars, which was built by the Portuguese for the King of Saunde, who submitted to the Portuguese rule. These are also other very large manors and palaces which were built in Goa by people who were of landlord class. This is the house of the Menezes Braganza Pereira. This is part of the Menezes Braganza Pereira house, which is a hall which is much visited. The Fernandez house, which is very old and built on an earlier plinth of Kadamba period structure. View of their halls. These are houses which are built later, in the later period. And interestingly, these are Hindu families who adopted Portuguese, Indo-Portuguese architectural styles into their architecture. So this is the house of a family called the Dempos, who are an industrial and mining family. This is the house of Kenkreis, again an important landlord family. Dion Palace, which was built by the Portuguese clergy to house people. TB Kuna House, which is in South Goa. And this particular house is, I have featured this house over here to show how large houses like this have been converted for tourism stays, like boutique stays for tourists. This is again another large house in South Goa, which belongs to the Figueiredo family, again converted into a boutique accommodation for tourism, and also contains a number of halls and dining facilities, and hosts a number of events, in this house. A house which is could probably be typical to the houses that existed on the entire Old Goa, Ribandar waterfront, is the Solar Culasso house. At one point of time, one must remember that the mode of transport was waterways, and houses like this did support this kind of movement and actually faced the river, as that was their main entrance to the house. Going from the large houses and manors, I go to the little towns of Goa. Panjim is the capital, with a very prominent church as a landmark in the center of the town. It has got a gridiron plan with a number of gardens and plazas within the gridiron, and they are very well distributed. This is the Adil Shah Palace, which is one of the earliest structures in Panjim, modified over the period of years, both in terms of its external elevations and its additions. This is when Goa started getting its higher education. This was the building of the Lyceum, which had schooling for people in Panjim. This did bring a lot of students and educationists to Panjim to converge to this area. This is how the buildings are at the moment. They are temporarily being utilized as the High Court for and in a short period of time the activities will be moved to other places because the Panjim is getting a new High Court complex. Buildings like this are the Kamat Mamai families, which are as old as the Adil Shah Palace. The customs house, which was earlier a customs office, has been very beautifully converted into a customs museum. And I think efforts like this do keep the interest in traveling and education in our own way alive. And particularly the customs museum is interesting because it has the whole history of the customs in this little structure. This is also one of the interesting structures in the main church square, which is the Comunidad building, and is well preserved and maintained. These are some of the houses that are now being converted for institutional uses. This is the Fundação Orient, which is a foundation that is involved in Indo-Portuguese cultural research and exchanges. These are part of the little squares and the kind of a townscape that we have in Panjim. Administrative buildings. This was the accounts building called Fazendas. Little views of the city of Panjim as you see it. This is where we have the government printing press, streetscapes of the residential quarters. And yes, what really happened in Goa was that as the towns were developing, they started developing with their own character. Panjim started becoming more of a capital city with its administrative educational centers, located within it. Cities like Margao started becoming the commercial centers, and Margao, being a wealthier city, had a much larger municipal building with much more activities than Panjim. Citizens of Margao also did have larger homes. This is not a typical, this is one of the larger homes of Margao. It's called the Sat Burzangor, which is named so because of its gabled roofs, which were 7 in numbers earlier. Cities like Mapsa then developed into marketplaces. So Mapsa has a very famous market, and its weekly markets are very famous. Almost everybody converges to Mapsa on a Friday for their weekly markets. Cities like Vasco da Gama became famous for its port, and it became its transportation hub. And we now move on to the post-liberation period with the construction of many new facilities in Goa and in Panjim also. This is the beautiful Kalacademy, which was designed by the famous Charles Correa. Glimpses of this building. Structures like this constructed by Gerard de Cunha, which houses the Museum of Goa. It brings in a lot of interest for architectural students and people interested in the history of Goan homes. These are modern structures, which is Don Bosco Church. We have also started having a lot of buildings that have gone into an adaptive reuse, which is the Moda Goa, built by our famous fashion designer, Mr. Wendell Rodrigues. The Museum of Christian Art has gone into a refurbishment, and it's being seen in a much more modern context within a heritage building of the old Goa Santa Monica complex. And we are also seeing the development of little accommodations across the state, which are linked to ecotourism. And we are also seeing buildings that were earlier the Goa Medical College complex being now changed to a center for the International Film Festival. So we can see a lot of adaptive reuse is happening of these old buildings. Accommodation like these for tourism, which had started now, has spread all over with resorts coming up all along Goa. And yes, and so I end this by saying that we have a lot of things that we can showcase. In doing this, then it's important that we create we develop the program, and we also invite a stronger government participation in managing and assisting healthy tourism linked to Goa's architectural heritage and its built heritage. I end this by thanking all of you for for letting me speak on this, and I pass the thing to Sauni so she can talk about her experiences in tourism. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So namaste everyone. This is Savni Shetty. I'm an archaeologist by profession, and for last 3 years in Goa, I'm showing a different kind of Goa to all the people who come here. So the thing in archaeology is we believe in more practical learning, actually going out there, digging, and then learning history through all the sources that we get. So using this as a method, using this as an important part of learning, we started something called as experience tourism in Goa. So they say when you travel, there are two types of travels. One is you are a tourist. When you go there, you just maybe want to have a luxury time, have just want to nap, and that's nothing wrong about it. If you are tired in your daily work life and you want to come to Goa and just take a relaxing break, just be by some five-star hotel or something and just relax or read a book, there's nothing wrong about it. But for those who want to just go out of their regular bucket list and explore and learn from people, learn from their own experiences, then Goa is just the best place for you. And people think that Goa is such a small place, and as Mr. Sanjeev Sardesai has given you a whole lot of idea what Goa is and what Goa is not limited to. So you know that it's not just the beaches that we have in Goa. We've seen in his presentation, and you've also seen in presentation of my another colleague, Mr. Aminio, that there are a lot of detailing done in the architecture here. So there are a lot of things that you can actually learn on the practical lines in Goa. So for all the travelers who come to Goa, we'll just give you a glimpse through this webinar that is Dekho Apna Desh. So I'm just giving you a small glimpse of what Goa has to offer. So experiencing Goan culture through travel. So whenever you travel in Goa, the first or anywhere in the world, first part is we come face to face with history. We get to know the details of history live, the stories that are told through stones. There are a lot of detailing done in the architecture, in the kind of design, kind of paintings. So that's kind of when all the stones start speaking to you. But they have a codified language. So it is important that you hop on some tour or read more about it and learn the language of this sculptures or paintings. And Goa being such a small place, uh, we have a lot of influence of different cultures, which is kind of a rare thing in itself. So there are small rivers in Goa where you just cross, and if you had done that in 200 years ago or 300 years ago, there were two different national or international boundaries. One side you have the Portuguese area, and one side you have Maratha area. So today you can see a kind of difference, kind of cultural identity, which is little varying from the two. One side you will see a lot of Portuguese influence, maybe in the food, maybe in the dress, maybe in the language, and the other side you see a lot of Maratha or the Indic influence. So today I will be giving you a small walkthrough in the next 15 minutes about different things that you can do in Goa. So this is why cultural tourism in Goa is important. There are various layers of history in such limited geographical area. Then there are Indic and Western influences. There are a lot of folk culture and stories. As an archaeologist, I always feel that we don't have monuments that are as huge as Hampi, that are as huge as Tamil Nadu Chola temples, or even as grand as the Mughal tombs or their architecture in north of India. But in this small place, because we owe our limitations to our stone, that is laterite, where you can't do carvings as delicate as Hoysalas or as strong as the Cholas, but we have lot of stories here. The data of anthropological importance and the folk stories, folk culture is just something that you will not get anywhere else. As Mr. Sanjeev Sardesai has told you, there is a festival of the ghost. There is a festival where people go in trance. There are stories where you see a cultural influence like of that protector deities. There are deities for childbirth. There are deities for the dead. There are there are areas that are marked for the folk protector deities. And even today, when we know of Inquisition as a historical event in Goa, where people had to convert their religion, but there are these cultural stories, cultural ideas that have not gone from their mind. So, for example, when you walk to Rashol Fort, outside of the fort gate, you will see small bidis and liquor, the local liquor, and candles lit outside the fort gate, which was the boundary for the protector deity. And the Hindus used to light the lamp there, which is just now switched to a different kind. The lamp is now replaced by the candle. Everything else remains the same. So there are so many stories that 20 minutes are less for me to tell you the stories. But Goa, any place that you travel, it's full of people, interesting stories of these people and the ideas. So if you are into content or if you are into creative ideas, Goa is just the best place for you. So this is the classic Goa tour. Whenever you think of Goa, your Kolva, Miramar, all these beaches come right in front of your eyes, and there is nothing wrong about that. But I'm showing you something which is beyond these travel bucket. So this is the regular travel bucket list for Goa. You have the Kavade Shantadurga temple. There also there is an interesting story. Everywhere in India or now even in the world, you will see Durga in the warrior form. Durga is supposed to be the warrior goddess, but it's only in Goa that you have her in the Shanta Durga form, where she comes and she specifies herself after killing Mahishasur. So if you celebrate Navratri and worship Ma Durga, which is in the warrior form, then you need to come to Goa to worship her in the meditative, the peaceful form, that is Shanta Durga. This is Old Goa Church that is very famous, and they say that Goa tour is not complete if you don't visit Old Goa. And the upper photograph is of Agwada Fort, and also the Chapora Fort, which is quite common on the younger bucket list of the of the 90s kids of India because of the Dil Chahta Hai movie. So let's go beyond these regular buckets. Let's start going offbeat. So when we had to start offbeat tourism, as I told you that there were no big archaeological monuments here, so we had to start something with the smaller places. But these places have been marker in Indian history or Goan history or the human history in general. The first unique location that we started with was Pansarima Rock Art. This is around 8,000 to 6,000 year old. It's on the laterite, like if you know Bhimbetka, which are on the cave. But you can't do that here because in Goa we have very heavy rainfall. So you can't do paintings on the wall. And even if they had tried to do, they might not have survived this long for us. So whatever was the easiest way for them to express themselves, to record what they have done, was to do it on the laterite stone. And this is right on a small river bank of River Kushavati, where you can see the stories or whatever these people from the Stone Age times had to express. This is very small site, but very important for the history of Goa to know the antiquity of Goan history. And now that recently a lot of sites have been found in Maharashtra's Ratnagiri and in Karnataka, we can kind of say there is a migration from Gujarat to Maharashtra and down south of the Stone Age people. We don't find lot of stone tools here like rest of India because of the heavy rainfall that we have, because of which lot of things get drowned in the water and then it gets in the water. So there is no context that we find. But if you come to this site of Pansarima, you will find lot of animal representation. There are representations like the one that I'm showing in the picture, which is kind of mystic. So we discuss on the site what these ideas could be. Were they trying to tell us any story? So we go to next, which is observing ideas from the past. As I told, there are a lot of influences here in Goa in such a small place. You get to see historical ideas from the Marathas, the designs which have come from Pune, the designs which have come from the Vijayanagaras, the designs which have come from the artists who traveled here from Europe. So then you get a kind of mixture of everything here. For example, if you visit Museum of Christian Art in Goa, there is a small baby Jesus which is done exactly similar like Krishna from the last episode of Bhagavat, where you see Krishna, the Balakrishna, sucking his toe. So here, which is not of the toe of his leg because that's not a story part of the Bible, but the artist might have seen this Bhagavat, which is kind of common narration in Goa and the other parts of Goa. The same story kind of is copied in other religious ideas also. So there is this cross-cultural ideas that have gone from both the cultures. So Goa is perfect place if you want to see different ideas coming together. Then third part is why cultural tourism important is learning on site. When you read about in books or you see on internet, you don't get the idea of the time and the space. So it's a different kind of experience when you visit to this place. So this is a cave which is of Buddhist importance in Goa. So if I tell you of a Buddhist cave, the first thing that will come in front of your eyes is maybe Ajanta, maybe the Buddhist caves of Ellora or Karle Bhaje in Maharashtra, or maybe the viharas of Sarnath. But in Goa, since we have this laterite stone and you can't do a lot of decorations on laterite, this was a simple natural cave where the Buddhist monks used this for their Varshavas, for the time to stay during their rainy period, for meditation, for preaching. So we don't see lot of decorations here in terms of sculpture, but one huge Buddha image was found here. And the Buddha was found in headless form. The head was destroyed. But there is a story of Buddha touching ground when he reaches enlightenment. And just because of one, this, the mudra, the one gesture of touching ground, we could know that this is of Buddhist importance cave in Rivona in Goa. So if you travel to a lot of Buddhist places and you want to see how it has changed with time, with owing to geographical limitations, you need to also explore the Buddhist caves in Goa. Then this is a temple which is not so commonly visited by tourists. So there are each village in Ponda area which were given refuge during Inquisition time. All these temples were shifted to the areas of Adil Shah, who gave them patronage and the refuge. And these were later promoted and patronized by the Marathas during time of the Shahu Chhatrapati and of the Sambhaji Maharaj time. So, lot of Goans, as we know, were employed in the court of Maratha Sansthan, right from Indore to Gayakwad and Holkars and of the Bhosles in Maharashtra. So they donated lot of patronage for these temples, and each village has unique temples set in the tropical farms of the which we call as Kuragar, and each temple will always be located near any water space or water body in terms of a pushkarani or in terms of a river nearby. So even in this picture, which is not so visited, this temple is dedicated to Lakshmi Narsimha. The one that you see in Hampi as well, exactly similar was there in Goa, which you can go visit. This is in a village called Veling. And even this, in this picture, you can see influence of the Marathas in architecture. Even in the temple architecture, you can see influence of the European churches. So here in Goa, you get a different kind of experience of peacefulness because of the nature and exploring and observing different ideas coming live in front of you through different cultures. Then we have something called as walking tours in Goa. The quiet villages of Goa are the best for walking tours where you can explore at the slow pace. So you can visit through these lanes, photograph yourself. The colorful lanes are just worth of your time if you are Instagram savvy, where you need a lot of good colored images. Goa has ample of them. Then we have something called as hinterlands and villages of Goa. So which where you can see smaller places, like this is a fort which is very simple, but this is one fort where Marathas and the Portuguese had quite a big battle. So even though architecture is very simple, the stories are very much interesting. Then we have theme-based experiences, as I told in the beginning, where the monuments are quite smaller in their size. So what we do is in Goa, with Goa tourism, is we put a lot of places in one circuit, and you can experience maybe 5 places of one theme base, which is maybe river trails, like places on one river side, then lesser known temples, Goa Liberation Trails, Forts of Goa, Island Trails, Islamic heritage in Goa, and the village churches. Then we go for experiencing culture through local lifestyle. This is a foreigner couple in experiencing Hanuman Jayanti in one of the temples on their regular tour. Unique festivals of Goa. This has a story connect with Bible, which is of the three kings when they visit Christ on his birth. So you can participate in the feast. Then these are unique elements of classic tours which you can visit like local festivals. Enjoying like a local during the festivals. This is Sanjao, where you jump in the well. This is a never before kind of experience because during Navratra, what you think of Dandiya, but if you come to Goa during Navratra, you will see a kind of a jhula where goddesses and or the god is made to sit decorated with all the jewelry and the ornaments, and they give the whole night or for 2 or 3 hours, they kind of give them a swing with music in the background. So this is an experience that you should have when you come to Goa. This is unique experiences, which is this is mud bath right in front of the Devaki Krishna temple, which is kind of suggesting of Krishna in his childhood. So everybody is kind of thinks they themselves as Krishna having fun in the mud with their other friends. When you travel, the important part when you travel offbeat is eating local or supporting local. So when we go vocal for local, this is our tribal food cooked in the local ingredients. This is how you can see a boy is kind of making the fish fry without oil, and this is done in the grass. So this is kind of experience local, where you have food on a banana leaf served in a local house. This is, and a lot of people think Goa is only about seafood, but this is a vegetarian food in a local house. And if you are a vegan traveling to Goa, we have lot of vegan varieties. Like I can tell you of 365 vegan varieties that Goa can offer, all local and tropical dishes. If you don't want to have like a simple meal and you want to dine like a royal, this you can have this experience in a old Portuguese house where you can enjoy a European kind of a meal. Another important part of traveling is meeting people and learning from people. So if you like to meet people, develop stories, then this Goa is another place. So this is where we travel to different local houses. You can learn music, or this is like grinding stone. And whenever they would grind any grains, they always sing a kind of local folk songs. So this is like trying your small simple workout with local music. These are local people who serve you home cooked food and with all the love, and something that you will not even find maybe in the Michelin star restaurants. This is a local folk performance, the story of Ramayan, which is we call as Ramlila in India, and what we call in Goa as Ranmale. This is two of our tour members trying their hands at the grinding stone. This is a tribal trail where the local people tell you their own story. This is Devidas Gaukar, who is also an expert in tribal history, introducing our tour members to their village history in whatever research he has done. So this is part of the Houses of Goa Trail, where we meet people who have been custodians of this heritage for last so many generations. This is, I think, for the 15th generation was staying in the same house. So you can imagine the number of stories they have to share for you. This is expert-led tours where you see historical stories in the historical locations. This is one of the unique experience, something that I will never forget. This is freedom fighter telling the story at the very place where they were jailed. These are farm tours that Goa has to offer. This is the very famous cashew fruit. This is trying hands-on in a local farm. One of our tour members trying to plant maybe something like a bindi plant. Then hands-on learning, because history is not only limited to books. We are a kind of civilization in India that are still living. Our heritage is still continuing. So this is kind of a craft that you can learn. And for if you're an artist, this is the best. This is flower selling that you will find outside every temple, and even in, which is very unique to Goa, even outside of the churches. So you can see one example here. Then this is handloom weaving centers in Goa, where we weave local Kundi saris. So if you want to buy Goan local handloom, there are a lot of handloom trails happening in Goa. This is the Potters of Goa. where you can meet them, see how they make a lot of things. One interesting thing that you can see on my screen is there is a kind of mud pot used to keep water, which has a kind of a rooster on it. So that has an interesting history connect that you need to come to Goa and discover. This is market walk for the spices, cane craft that you can see from this local people, very sustainable and eco-friendly way. And also when we travel, we need to support these handicrafts people. This is on a local festive walk where we took them for a feast, and these are sweetmeats made out of besan and jaggery. So which keeps you awake in the night when you would watch your performance of theater. So we ask our to our members to pack something like this. So we keep this demand on for the local sweets. The fishing tours, because Goa is not, synonymous to all the fishing and the food, the seafood. So we try to go as much vocal for the local. The nature and bird trails, my colleague Sanjeev sir has already spoken a lot about the birds and the nature trails happening in Goa. So I will not go in the detail. This is something that you must come here and experience. So this is exclamations Goa, something very unique that only Goa has. This is Shisha Rani, a festival where three heads of living people, they go in trance and the food is cooked right on their head used as hearth. So this is an experience that happens once in 2 years. So which is also part of our tours, something as unique as this. Then this is a festival that the whole world should know. This is a crocodile festival where we make a mud crocodile, and this is to thank this is kind of a thanksgiving by the farmers for keeping their fields protected. This is a village that goes submerged in the Salaulim water dam, and you can see in this summer season it reappears. And Kishori Tai Amonkar, Gana Saraswati, was from this own village. This is Sluice Gates. Mr. Arminio has already spoken about these. This is an interesting way of keeping away from floods. And if I must tell you that Goa has not seen floods in last so many years because of this Sluice Gates. And now we get some water clogging here because we discarded this traditional way and we went for cement. So if you want to learn of sustainable living, Goa has got a lot of information. This is local experience. And we have many more things to do in Goa. So when you come here, we have a lot of things to offer, 365 things to offer. This is a small venture that we run. If you have any queries and want to know, you can always connect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Savni. Thank you, Sanjeev. Thank you, Arminio. That's been an amazing journey through Goa. I was getting mesmerized, and I'm sure so were our viewers. And viewers, don't you agree that even a second webinar doesn't seem to be enough for this amazing state of Goa? We probably need a third one. We are almost out of time. So I will first finish what I forget because I get so excited about the places which we are seeing. That today when we end with Goa on 28th, which is day after, we're going to again travel across and take you to northeast of the country back because there's been so much demand for going back to the green part of our country. Also viewers, because the lockdown is easing up and we are all getting back to our workplaces, it is hard for many of you to log into our screen live at 11 a.m. But we have the repository of all these webinars that we are doing on the website of Ministry of Tourism, and NEGD crafts the webinars for us on a cloud, records it and puts it as a repository on digital learning. So therefore it stays on YouTube. You can go to the Ministry of Tourism website and go back and see the webinars or remind your friends and family to see these webinars at convenience of your time. So day after, we'll at 11 a.m. take you back to the Northeast. But for now, I think you should start packing your bags, get ready to jump into the well, go for the mud bath, or join the Navratras in Goa. There's just so much beauty in these places. I'm afraid there is no time left for the questions today. And there is so much that we have picked up from the webinar. So I'm just going to say a big thank you to Sanjeev and Arminio and Savni from Goa. for bringing so much information-packed webinar to all our viewers today. And we hope that we can do another one very soon. And we also hope that as the flights are beginning to happen, 25th yesterday, the flights started taking off. There is movement starting to happen. We hope that all of you stay healthy, stay safe. And in the meantime, हमारे साथ देखते रहिए हमारा सुंदर देश, and we'll keep bringing you the Dekho Apna Desh series. And once again, a big thank you to the team NEGD that is continuously working with us to ensure that the platform remains live and active and keeps adding value to tourism in India. So thank you viewers. देखते रहिए अपना देश. 11 बजे 28th, we'll take you back to the Northeast. Thank you panelists.